therefore call on our youth to discontinue the street protests and constructively engage government in finding solutions.
President Muhammadu Buhari addresses Nigerians, reacts to acts of lawlessness accompanying the NSAS protests, directs security agencies to maintain law and order.
Peace is priceless. People will come to know how important when it is lost. So there should be peace and stability.
Eminent Nigerians, religions, leaders and elders sue for peace.
The security agencies have been asked to apply as much restraint as possible. But then again, the youth should also understand that sometimes pushing their luck might also result in unwanted issues.
And more measures taken to tackle security in Nigeria. Hello, good evening, and thank you for joining us on the network news of the NTA. I'm Joseph Johnson. Dr. Nuguyemi joins us from Lagos. President Muhammadu Buhari has formally appealed to the NSAS protesters in parts of the country to resist the temptations of being used by subversive elements to cause chaos with the aim of truncating Nigeria's nascent democracy. In a nationwide broadcast, the president made a case for the youth to discontinue the street protests, constructively engage government in finding solutions, and take advantage of the various well-thought-out initiatives designed to make their lives better and more meaningful. State House correspondent Adama Samba reports.
The choice to demonstrate peacefully is a fundamental right of citizens.
This right to protest, President Muhammadu Buhari, however, emphasized, also imposes on the demonstrators the responsibility to respect the rights of other citizens and the necessity to operate within the law. As a democratic government, he said the federal government listened to and carefully evaluated the 5 points demand of the protesters, as a result of which SARS was immediately scrapped and measures put in place towards addressing the other demands.
The promptness with which we have acted seems to have been misconstrued as a sign of weakness and twisted by some for their selfish, unpatriotic interests. The result of this is clear to all observers. Human lives have been lost, acts of sexual violence have been reported, 2 major correctional facilities were attacked and convicts freed, public and private properties completely destroyed or vandalized, the sanctity of the palace of a peacemaker, the Oba of Lagos, has been violated.
President Buhari described as painful that these acts of lawlessness were executed in the name of NSAS protests, saying there's no way whatsoever to connect these bad acts to legitimate expression of grievance of the nation's youth.
The spreading of deliberate falsehood and misinformation through the social media in particular, that this government is oblivious to the pains and plight of the citizens, is a ploy to mislead the unwary within and outside Nigeria into unfair judgment and disruptive behavior. On the contrary, both our deeds and words have shown how committed this administration has been to the well-being and welfare of citizens, even with the steadily dwindling revenues and the added responsibilities and restrictions due to the coronavirus pandemic. No Nigerian government in the past has methodically and seriously approached poverty alleviation like we have done.
While reaffirming federal government's commitment to preserving the unity of the country, the president urged the youth to take the path of honor by ending the street protests, as well as resisting attempts by subversive elements to destabilize the country and truncate democracy.
For you to do otherwise will amount to undermining national security and the law and order situation. Under no circumstances will this be tolerated. This government respects and will continue to respect all the democratic rights and civil liberties of the people, but it will not allow anybody or groups to disrupt the peace of our nation. And I call on all Nigerians to go about their normal businesses.
President Buhari, who enjoined security agencies to protect lives and property of all law-abiding citizens, paid tribute to the police personnel who lost their lives in the line of duty. He also used the opportunity to thank members of the international community for their concern about the ongoing developments in Nigeria, saying, however, that they should seek to know all the facts available before either taking a position, rushing to judgment, or making hasty pronouncements. From the State House, Adamu Sambu, NTA News.
Now let's just discuss the broadcast a little further, as I'm now being joined via Zoom by Dr. Abdurrahman Hamisu, a public affairs analyst. Dr. Abdurrahman Hamisu, welcome to NTA Network News.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Nigerians.
All right, let's get your take on the president's broadcast.
Well, the response is a measured one, and it speaks to the issues and what we need to do as a nation. Don't forget the fact that we are 200 million people. We can accept refugees into Nigeria, but I doubt if there is any country around us who are our neighbors that will take in as many Nigerians if we destroy this nation. The fact presented by Mr. President.
Oh, we're sorry, you seem to be having a little bit of a challenge there, but as soon as we reconnect with Dr. Abdurrahman Hamisu, we will continue our discussion on the president's broadcast. But in the meantime, President Muhammadu Buhari has directed the nation's security and intelligence agencies to do whatever is necessary within the limits of the law towards bringing to a halt the acts of lawlessness that accompanied the NSAS protests in parts of the country, which he described as intolerable. The president gave the directive at an extraordinary meeting of the National Security Council, as explained by the National Security Advisor, Babagana Mungunu.
It appears now that the riots are taking a different dimension, an unwanted dimension. And Mr. President is very, very concerned about this development and does not want a situation in which everything breaks down and results in anarchy, in lawlessness, and people taking the law into their own hands. So far, the government has been able to concede to the demands of the protesters. Then it also is logical for the protesters, for those that are aggrieved also, to take a step back, take stock of their activities, and come to a meeting point with government and its agencies. It is not Mr. President's desire to see any unwanted loss of lives, and he is determined to ensure that things do not cascade into an unpleasant situation. Mr. President has directed that government should do whatever is necessary within the confines of legitimacy, within the confines of legality, in order to bring about an agreeable resolution to this crisis. It is extremely important for the youth to understand that if the atmosphere is not conducive for dialogue and for understanding, we can't have any peaceful resolution. The security agencies have been asked to apply as much restraint as possible, but then again, the youth should also understand that sometimes pushing their luck might also result in unwanted issues. So it is very, very important for everyone to take stock of what has already happened and not give a dark impression of this country to the international community.
Well, I've just been told that we have re-established connections with Dr. Abdurrahman Hamisu, a public affairs analyst. Well, Dr. Abdurrahman, just before the hitch in the connections, you were just telling us your take on the president's broadcast. A strong appeal was made by the president to the NSAS protesters to resist being used by subversive elements. How would you interpret that?
Well, I think from the president's speech, he also commended the youth for coming out to lay bare their grievances against us and what government has really done. But again, when the protest persisted and it was beginning to present some element with opportunity to unleash mayhem on innocent citizens, committing arson, as well as what the president said, including rape and other things, it is beginning to dawn on us that something urgent needed to be done in order to de-escalate the situation. We can afford to add to our burden what coronavirus has already done. We are saying we're fighting poverty. Corona came and then destabilized our projections, and then here we are again descending into anarchy. It's not going to augur well for us because none of our neighbors can accommodate Nigerian population if we destroy this country. So we must work together to do the needful, to restore peace, to partner with government, to demand for more reforms, and then the progress of this nation is assured so that all the initiative Mr. President has read out, youth can benefit from them.
Okay, Dr. Abdurrahman, just final thoughts. What would you advise the protesters after carefully, appraising Mr. President's broadcast?
For me, this is the first time I've seen the government of Nigeria accepting and acting swiftly on issues of public interest when presented. It shows that the government is a listening one, and that the youth, if we're able to organize ourselves and we engage government peacefully, more gains and reforms will be recorded in Nigeria to the glory of all Nigerians. So for me, it's supposed to be a smart partnership between those that want government to function as well as those that are in love with the progression that we envisage for this country. So doing anything to undermine the nation is undermining ourselves. We shouldn't forget the fact that we have other challenges to contend with, like the issues of banditry as well as Boko Haram insurgency. So we can't create more chaos for our nations for others to come and feed fat on. So we shouldn't make ourselves available. We know what happened in Libya. Yes. Libyans are still crying up to this moment. So we shouldn't go that way. It will not augur well for us. It will not augur well for Africa.
All right. Public affairs analyst Dr. Abdurrahman Hamisu, thank you very much indeed for coming on the news and, of course, for taking us through all that.
It's my pleasure.
In the meantime, Vice President Yemi Osinbajo has sympathized with all the victims of the Lekki shootings and also the policemen and all other men and women who lost their lives in the past few days in different parts of Lagos and other states. In a tweet, the Vice President said he spoke to some of those in hospital and described the pain of these terrible events as palpable in towns and cities and that some losses are irreplaceable. While expressing his support with Lagos and all other affected states in these trying times, Vice President Osinbajo assured that there will be justice for all victims and prayed that the nation will never see a repeat of these tragedies. Hoodlums who have been causing mayhem in Lagos State under the guise of the ongoing NSAS protest have killed 2 policemen at the Orele police station and injured many at various police stations in Lagos. A statement by the Lagos State Police Command indicates that the criminally minded hoodlums burned down the police stations, set a patrol van ablaze and gruesomely murdered 2 policemen, while others were critically injured. The hoodlums also attacked 3 Generation banks and carted away unspecified amount of money before setting the banks ablaze on Wednesday. The hoodlums launched a series of attacks on the palace of Oba of Lagos, ShopRite located at Ajah, Nigerian Port Authority Head Office Marina, the Governor's Mother's House at Akerele, the VIO and Federal Road Safety Corps offices at Ojudu, Lagos State, Magistrate Courts, Igboshere, TVC station, the Nation's newspaper office, and many other shopping malls were looted. The command declares that it will not allow the present situation degenerate to anarchy and insecurity, while hoodlums will have free day to kill, destroy, and loot people's property with impunity. It says it will repel any group of individuals that might want to continue with the barbaric acts across the state. A Northern Governors Forum has called on Nigerians' youth to be vigilant and advised those involved in wanton destruction of property in some parts of the country to desist. Chairman of the forum and Governor of Plateau State, Simon Lalong, made the appeal while briefing journalists at the end of their emergency meeting in Kaduna. Mohammed Umar Ajingi reports.
The governors settling down to deliberate on recent developments in the country, particularly the NSAS protests that turned violent in some parts of the country. For about 6 hours, the governors met behind closed doors. They expressed worry and wonder why the NSAS protest persists despite the approval of their demands by the president. The governors therefore called for establishment of Judicial Commission of Inquiry to investigate the level of destruction and killings during the protests. The forum urged the federal government to look into the possibility of ending ASU strike, as they observe that most of the youths are idle, therefore vulnerable to be engaged in dubious acts.
Forum also notes the heavy presence of external influencers, both locally and internationally, and call on all citizens, particularly community leaders and youth groups, to be very vigilant and report the presence of such people to security agencies. The forum calls for comprehensive and robust reforms in the police force. She supports various federal government initiatives put in place by federal government and will ensure that they are fast-tracked and given more impetus by the 19 northern governors.
The 19 northern governors commended the resilience of the northern youths and leadership qualities shown by some prominent Nigerians by persuading the youths to embrace dialogue. In Kaduna, I am Muhammad Umar Ajingi, NTA News.
Also, state governments have come up with strategies to put an end to the unpatriotic activities of hoodlums. Elizabeth Omori has a compilation of visits by governors to affected areas, places, and next steps to end the mayhem.
The Edo State Governor, Godwin Obaseki, has given an ultimatum to inmates who fled from the medium security correctional centers to return to the prisons before Friday. Anwuli Okoli in Benin reports that the governor gave the ultimatum while inspecting the affected correctional facilities.
Government cannot sit down, fold its arms, and allow a breakdown of law and order in our society.
In the same vein, Bright Ebocho reports that the governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma, has condemned the killing of security operatives in the state.
Curfew means that there is no movement of persons or group of persons, either in the day or at night, till further notice.
The Delta State Governor, Ifeanyi Okowa, has also imposed a 48-hour curfew following the protest that led to the destruction of government property.
Starting 6 p.m. today, October 22, 2020.
Key players at a strategic engagement meeting at the instance of Governor Simon Lalong in Jos are calling on citizens at all levels to make practical efforts at entrenching the culture of peace and upholding the sanctity of human life.
There are legitimate avenues to ventilate grievances in a democracy.
Meanwhile, Osun and Cross River states have inaugurated judicial panels of inquiry on police brutality. Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State has also inaugurated a 10-man judicial panel of inquiry into the allegations of human rights violations against police officers, as well as operatives of the dissolved Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SAS. Similarly, the Kwara State Governor, Abdurrahman Abdurazak, has also set up a panel of inquiry in line with the National Economic Council's directive to calm aggrieved persons, compensate victims, and reform policing system.
This effort is expected to build a more people-friendly policing system which respects the rights of every citizen and abhors all forms of abuses.
And the NSCDC has declared emergency on the nation's critical infrastructures and assets. The court directed all state commandants to immediately reinforce deployment of personnel to all strategic critical infrastructure and national assets located in their various states to forestall any act of vandalism, arson, and destruction of these critical assets by miscreants who may capitalize on the ongoing protests in most parts of the country to perpetrate their sinister motives. In Abuja, Elizabeth Omori, NTA News.
Now, Nigeria has been, in the past weeks, been experiencing an important aspect of democracy, which allows Nigerians expressing their views in ways that are lawful, challenging brutality of the defunct Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS. But the struggle changed to violence, leading to loss of lives and destruction of public and private properties. Eminent Nigerians have been speaking to douse the tension in the country, as Juma Yusuf tells us more.
Timothy Yusuf reports that those who know the consequences of such action are calling for caution for everyone to toe the path of peace, as the digression from the acceptable means experts say can lead the nation to a state of anarchy.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
I believe we have fought one civil war too many in this country. So those who experience it will run away from it.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Backing of the protests by criminals have resulted into violence, destruction of government and private properties, criminal release of prisoners, and the lynching and burning of policemen and some innocent persons. These developments is causing serious concern to all of us, and if care is not taken, it might lead the country to a point of no return.
And in Ekiti, concerned elders have appealed to protesting youths to embrace peace and dialogue with government rather than destroying government and national assets. Yemi Dalamo reports that the elders are also calling on government to be patient in handling issues raised by the agitators.
The only way out is for both sides, the government and the youth, to be reasonable. And therefore, the government should have continued with the patience they had.
In the name of God, let them shield their sword. We cannot afford to lose any of them anymore. And I appeal to the federal government and the governments too to listen to the voice of the young ones.
I will call on the president to address the root causes, the pains which people are complaining about. Assure them that steps will be taken to address all the issues.
I warn and advise that youth should desist from joining any bad group which will want to lure them and use this protest in order to cause mayhem in the society.
We want to believe that out of this,
Our leaders should just ask God for wisdom, and we are praying for them, and think right, then do something so that there will be no repeat of this protest, but there should be a deliberate effort to bring a change that people are yearning to see.
International bodies and faith groups have continued to appeal for peace amid the NSAS protests across the country, just as youth groups say they are now off the streets and ready for dialogue. Benny Adams has details.
ECOWAS says it recognizes the right of citizens to freedom of expression, peaceful assembly and protest, but also stresses that those rights should be exercised in a non-violent manner, and also urges the Nigerian security operatives to exercise restraint in the handling of the protest and act professionally. Similarly, the leadership of the Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, has called for calm and comprehensive peaceful resolution to end the SARS protest.
It is a prayer that our country will rise from this terrible experience to be a better nation.
For the Supreme Council for Sharia in Nigeria, peace, safety of lives and property, as well as consideration of national interests, should guide the utterances and actions of Nigerians at this critical period of national challenge.
Peace is priceless. People will come to know how important when it is lost. So there should be peace and stability.
The Institute of Public Relations urged the protesters to give government time to address their grievances and advised that inquiries into the killings and destruction of property be investigated.
Genuine protests and protesters must guard against being infiltrated by others with entirely different motives.
Another group, Think Nigeria First initiative, while commending government for heeding to the 545 demands of the youth, appeals to groups still on the streets to eschew violence and join the roundtable for dialogue.
We feel a sense of duty to appeal to our youth to remain calm, peace and law-abiding. The street protest has largely achieved its goal. It is a time to dialogue with government.
For the youth, realizing that no war ends in the battlefield but on the dialogue table, and amid local and international calls for peace, various youth groups under the umbrella of Stakeholders of Nigerian Youth say they are ready for dialogue.
On our part, we shall consult widely with our traditional institution, religious leaders, and youth leaders to ensure that the youth are never again neglected.
The youth promise to use peaceful means as they continue to press home their demands of 5 for 5. In Abuja, Benny Adams, NTA News.
Well, to stay with us here on NTA Network News, time now to take our first set of messages. We're back shortly.
Recent genuine concerns and agitations by Nigerians about the excessive use of force and, in some cases, extrajudicial killings and wrongful conduct by men of the Nigerian police force. The disbanding of SARS is only the first step in our commitment to extensive police reform in order to ensure that the primary duty of the police and other law enforcement agencies remains the protection of lives and livelihoods of our people. We will also ensure that all those responsible for misconduct or wrongful acts are brought to justice. We also deeply regret the loss of life of the young man in Oyo State during the recent demonstrations. I have directed that the circumstances of his death should be thoroughly investigated. Meanwhile, it is important to recognize that the vast majority of men and women of the police force are hardworking and diligent in performing their duties. The few bad eggs should not be allowed to tarnish the image and reputation of the force.
There's an easier way to get more data. Get more out of life with the new Airtel data plans. Dial *141# now. Data is life.
Airtel, the smartphone network. There are no small beginnings, only stepping stones to bigger things. That's our philosophy at Premium Pension. And so no matter the size of your money, our team of expert fund managers invested wisely and actively to make sure your money is always working as hard as you do. After all, the things we're building today can help shape your future in the long run. And with the right partner by your side, the one thing you're sure to do is soar. Premium Pension. Active today, premium tomorrow.
Mr. President said the youth of this country have spoken, and he has heard, and he has since gone to work for the youth of our country, not just as a president, but even as a father of the younger generation.
The real Nigerian youth is a patriot, not a tool of destabilization.
Mr. President made an appeal to the Nigerian youth that this protest, wherever held, should be done in a peaceful manner. The Nigerian youth should be on their guard to make sure that elements that will infiltrate and distract them from the very purpose of their protest should be prevented from doing so.
Listen to the voice of reason.
This is NTA Network News with me, Joseph Johnson. We are not done with NSAS yet because we understand that all affected victims of the NSAS protesters in FCT will be compensated. Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mohammed Musa Bello, gave this indication when he led a team on the sports assessment to Apo and Dutse communities in Abuja. Shoaibu Nozie Yakubu reports.
The first port of call was Apu community, where FCT Minister Mohammed Musa Bello, in company of the FCT Minister of State and other stakeholders, met with the affected victims who are still counting their losses, especially the petty traders whose means of livelihood were also destroyed. At Dutse community in Bwari Area Council, the team inspected the customary court and a police station that were razed down during the protest with vehicles destroyed. FCT Minister, while sympathizing with the victims, promised to compensate those affected.
I have also seen the extent of damages, and we have already set up a small committee to be able to assess the damages, and we are going to work towards making sure that whoever has lost something is compensated within what is possible. We all need to work together to protect lives, protect livelihoods, and above all, to ensure that harmony and peace returns to Abuja.
The minister, however, appealed for calm as he urges political and community leaders to continue to preach peace in their domain. Shoaibu Onoze Yakubu, NTA News.
The federal government has constituted a high-powered panel to investigate the recent shooting at the NSAS protesters allegedly involving the military at the Lekki Toll Gate, Lagos. The coordinator, Defense Media Operations Major General John Enenche, said this at the weekly news conference of the Defense Headquarters in Abuja. Defense correspondent Ismail Musa Hasmo.
Details of the operations indicate 91 kidnapped victims were rescued and 312 bandits killed in combat in the northwest. In the northeast, troops of Operation Lafia Dole eliminated 450 terrorists and rescued 66 kidnapped victims. Similarly, 107 bandits and militias were neutralized in the north central by troops of Operation Safe Haven, Wild Stroke and Thunderstrike. In the same vein, troops of Operation Delta Safe have upscaled the fight against economic sabotage in the South-South.
A cumulative total of 8,890,300 liters of automotive gas oil and 33,500 liters of double-purpose kerosene were impounded by the troops of Operation Delta Safe.
During the period under review, 18 kidnapped victims were liberated, 46 pirates apprehended, while 18 illegal refining sites were destroyed in Abuja. Ismail Musa, NTA News.
Let's turn to the legislature, where the Lagos State Caucus of the House of Representatives has condemned in strong terms the invasion of the palace of the Oba of Lagos. The caucus, while briefing the press, described the attack as a sacrilege. National Assembly correspondent Lami Ali reports.
The Lagos State Caucus also condemned the attack on critical infrastructure in parts of the state. It called on the protesting youths to support the governor to restore peace as their legitimate requests are being attended to by authorities, including compensation to victims as demanded by the House of Representatives.
We therefore appeal to the youth to stop all protests because their actions have been hijacked by others with premeditated agenda, using social media to misrepresent and spread fake news, to incite violence, looting, vandalization of private and public assets.
In a related development, Young Parliamentarians Forum of the 9th National Assembly has called for the reconvening of an emergency session of the National Assembly to discuss alleged killing of peaceful protesters.
We implore the federal government to provide leadership in national reconciliation, peace and justice through inclusive and transparent dialogues with citizens and ensure individuals and institutions who violate constitutionally guaranteed rights are held to account.
In the meantime, House Leader Alhassan Ado Dogwa, during an engagement with Civil Society and Legislative Advocacy Center, has urged Nigerian youths to embrace peace, stressing that now is the time to apply the brakes.
No well-meaning Nigerian, a leader or a led, will sleep a happy man today with what is happening on our streets.
It needs, genuine intervention from both policy makers and legislative intervention to address some of these problems.
The Centre noted the role of the legislature in addressing ills in society like corrupt practices through legislative intervention. From the National Assembly, Lami Ali, NTA News.
Let's now turn to some of the other stories making the news today. The High-Powered Committee on State Public Service Reform has submitted its report to Borno State Government requesting for reintroduction of promotion examination as part of its 41-point recommendations. Mohammed Goni reports.
Professor Bagana Umara had, on assumption of office, made the reform of state public service a topmost priority to instill professionalism and to restore its lost glory, as well as enhance its capacity to implement policies and programs of government in tune with the 10-pack transformation agenda. Chairman of the committee, Secretary to the State Government Usman Jiddishua, who highlighted findings of the committee, said most of the institutional inadequacies and systemic challenges, which he said are deeply rooted and widespread, can be attributed to inability and unwillingness of those in the position of authority.
The committee has, for instance, found out that the civil service has, over the years, suffered worrisome level of political interference in its affairs, particularly in areas of appointment, promotions, and postings.
The committee offered 41-point recommendation. Professor Bagana Omara applauded the committee for what he described as well-articulated analysis of the challenges facing the civil service, saying the 41 recommendations will give the state government the needed impetus to undertake a fundamental reform of the public service.
Our decision to establish the committee was largely informed by the administrative imperative of reinvigorating the service with a view to making it a formidable embodiment of integrity and bureaucratic excellence.
The governor then gave directives for implementation of some of the recommendations, such as conduct of 2021 promotion examination, as well as reconstitution of zonal offices with furniture and other logistics provided. In Maiduguri, Mahmoud Goni, NTA News.
And the Tertiary Education Trust Fund is set to change the face of higher education in the country with the engagement of 700 scholars in the development of textbooks for use by students. Dauda Mohammed reports that a key component for the realization of the program is the visitation and assessment of one of the 7 academic publishing centers established by the TET Fund at the Federal University of Technology, Minna, Niger State.
Promoting creative and innovative approach to educational learning and service, one of the corporate objectives of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, gave birth to the idea of establishing 7 academic publishing centers across the country. The academic publishing centers, one each in the 6 geopolitical zones of the country, and the FCT have the mandate of publishing academic journals and textbooks to enhance competitiveness and excellence. The visitation to and assessment of one of the academic publishing centers at the Federal University of Technology, Minna, which is to serve higher institutions in the North Central Zone by the Board of Trustees and Technical Advisory Group from TET Fund, as well as heads of benefiting institutions, is to engage towards creating a roadmap for the management and operation of the publishing center.
Nurturing the culture of quality authorship and the production of indigenous books will not only ensure the availability of relevant books, it will also safeguard our national pride.
The visitation team also inspected the academic publishing center situated at the Federal University of Technology, Minna, to assess its level of completion, where it was observed that the building was ready, but printing machines are yet to be installed.
Once these centers start running, then these books will be available at a very cheap price because they will be produced in Nigeria.
The Director of Educational Support Services has assured us that the procurement process has commenced for the procurement of equipment.
The Tertiary Education Trust Fund has also presented 5 million naira each to 61 professional associations for the improvement of quality and impact of their academic journals. In Minna, Dauda Mohammed, NTA News.
Let's now cross over to Lagos Network Center where Dotun is waiting. Dotun, I'm pretty sure you have some NSAS stories with you.
Yes, definitely, Joseph. There are NSAS stories on our lineup. Suspected hoodlums have broken into a warehouse where COVID-19 palliatives are stored in Maza-Maza area of Lagos. The looting has spread to other parts of the state as miscreants continue to unleash mayhem across the metropolis. In some other areas, however, the roads are deserted and devoid of the usual Lagos commercial ambience. Jennifer Igwe is set to tell us more.
Most streets in Lagos are deserted. In fact, some areas are like ghost lands as people are indoors majorly out of fear because of activities of miscreants all around the state. Curfew imposed by the Lagos state government to check the rising cases of violence is still on. Simultaneously, however, is widespread looting and destruction of property. Stores and businesses on Bode Thomas in Surulere area of Lagos, for instance, have been cleared out as vandals laid the commercial centers to waste. In Bensa Crescent, popularly referred to as Monkey Village in Maza-Maza, Oriade Local Council Development Area, suspected hoodlums broke into a warehouse where COVID-19 palliatives were stored and turned it into a free-for-all for residents. Attack on Ikoyi Correctional Center, intended to set the stage for a jailbreak, was foiled by the police and prison personnel. The magistrate court at Igboshere was not spared as the building was vandalized. Cabinets, documents, and other items were also destroyed. To douse the situation, in addition to a statewide curfew, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu has insisted he did not order removal of the CCTV cameras from the Lekki toll gate as being insinuated in some quarters. According to the governor, only the laser cameras for vehicles were taken off. He assured residents that the security cameras captured the incident at the toll gate and that the footage would be submitted to the Judicial Panel on Police Brutality, Extrajudicial Killing and Extortion. Meanwhile, as that process is on, local youths have barricaded most streets in the metropolis, extorted money from few vehicles on the now deserted Lagos roads.
But I want to say to you, please, let's do it with caution and let's be calm and let's do it with wisdom so that what we tend to achieve will not be, the otherwise.
However, we have a duty as Muslims in particular and as humans in general to protest in a manner that will not destroy our peace. We have a collective patrimony that we have to protect.
Some essential services providers like petrol stations and banks have been forced to stay locked up for fear of being vandalized. In Lagos, Jennifer Igwe, NTA News.
And police officers' wives in Lagos are protesting the killing and injuring of their husbands in the ongoing violence that has trailed the NSAS protest in Lagos State. The women are calling on all parties to sheath their sword, urging Nigerians to see the police as their friends and partner in a quest for peaceful nation. Abolore Ogbara reports.
The last few days have been hard on Lagosians as hoodlums who have virtually hijacked the NSAS peace protest continue to vandalize and destroy public and private structures. It has also been widely reported that policemen are now the target of some miscreants. A development that propelled the wives of policemen in Babbage Police Station to embark on peaceful protest to halt the killing of their husbands.
Our demands are very simple. We said they should stop killing our husbands. They should stop killing our children. They entered the barracks in Makinde yesterday, burned down the old barracks and the station, killed police children, and they ended up saying they killed them at the protest ground. They should stop killing our husbands. They should stop killing our children. It's very simple. No civilian will say a policeman has not ever saved him or her once.
And we believe that the youth will understand our grief. We've been suffering ever since, and we've been crying silently.
Police, you are helping. We are civilian friends. When you come and help us, we don't want to die any younger. They are burning police barracks everywhere. We don't want to go there. We don't want them to stop it. We don't want them to kill us anymore. We are begging. We are just begging. Everybody is suffering. We are begging. We don't want to talk to widow.
The protesters called on all concerned to dialogue to put an end to the violence across the country. In Lagos, Abolore Ogbara, NTA News.
And those are the stories from Lagos. Next up is a break. Joseph will be back with more reports on Network News.
Bros of life! Bros of the next life! Bros of the life of the next life! Una! Arrange your voice, small cash now. If you do better thing, you drive, mama. Leave that house now. Amaka.
like this, series and much more. Download the Airtel TV app.
Mr. Announcer, you know that them say this film is still there on top of fire. And you say me, we still the shoot, so.
Download the Airtel TV app from Apple and Android Play Store. Airtel TV by Airtel, the smartphone network.
Glad you're still with us here on NTA Network News, and we're back in Abuja. 3 weeks into the 13-week Special Forces Course 7 2020 of the Nigerian Air Force, Chief of the Air Staff Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar visited the Regiment Training Center Annex, Bauchi, to assess the performance of the trainees. Muazu Hassan reports.
For 3 weeks now, these 180 personnel of the Nigerian Air Force have been undergoing this rigorous training provided under the course to equip them with necessary skills and tactics required to operate effectively as operatives in the Nigerian Air Force Special Operations Unit. Being the first time of conducting such kind of course in Bauchi, the Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Sadiq Baba Abubakar was at the Regiment Training Center Annex Bauchi to assess the performance of the trainees.
Our mission is just to assess the ongoing training. I'm sure you are aware that the federal government is acquiring air platforms to continue to that are required to support our operations not only in the northeast but in the northwest, and we need highly trained personnel to protect those air assets. So we are here to assess the conduct of the training, and we are very satisfied with what we have seen.
The Chief of Air Staff also inspected the ongoing projects of aircraft maintenance hangar and bulk fuel installation on the NAF base Bauchi. In Bauchi, was Hassan, NTA News.
Proper funding and maintenance of broadcast equipment, training and retraining of workers have been identified as measures that will go a long way in boosting professionalism and averting the challenges of signal in transmission failures in view of the digital switchover. This was the submission of the Director General of the Nigerian Television Authority, Yakubu Ibn Muhammad, at the 2020 Heads of Engineering Conference held in Abuja. Christiana Akonde reports.
Seated here are heads of engineering departments of the NTA from the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. The meeting is to brainstorm on the way forward in achieving the trending digitization transmission free of hitches.
Broadcasting is all about engineering. Every other thing, may be right, but if you don't get engineering right, you cannot get broadcasting right.
We need to apply what they call systematic approach to identify what are these problems, what are the causes, what are the intervening variables, what are the solutions.
For these engineers, information sharing, education, enlightenment, and entertainment in media operations can be improved upon through quality transmission delivery, enhanced by quality equipment and technical know-how.
Right now, we're having a challenge being on a StarTimes platform. It's a challenge that we needed a microwave link so as to get our signal to the StarTimes office for us to be on StarTimes platform.
The conference considered the theme, transmission prospects and challenges in Abuja. Christiana Akonde, NTA News.
Just take another break. Stay with us.
Issa to like football on Top Go TV. So they him forget say him be best man for him party wedding. Amaka disappoint Abobo all because of football. Kola and the family supposed come out, but then gas change plans because for this new football season, Go TV get correct